Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 5C Claremont College event. Today's event is a 5C student panel brought to you by our 5 lovely students from each of the Claremont colleges. My name is Donna Shea. I'm an assistant director of admission at Pitzer, and I will be starting off the webinar with having the students introduce themselves. But before we get into that, I'm just going to explain a couple things about this webinar. If you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll be able to see a Q&A box. Please use this box to post any questions that you have for our students. We are going to focus our webinar today a little bit more on the student experiences at the 5Cs, but we do have 5 admission officers here from each of the colleges who will be able to answer any questions about admission if you do have those in mind. If you have a specific question for either a 5C admission officer or one of our students here on the panel, make sure that you add the college or put the college's name at the start of your question, and we'll be able to answer your question a little quicker. We won't be able to get through all the questions today, but we will try our best to get through as many as possible. And with that, let's welcome our panelists. We're going to go in founding order, starting out with Luci at Pomona. Please let us know your name, your hometown, your major, and any activities that you do on campus.
So hello everyone, my name is Luci. I am a rising sophomore at Pomona. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm originally from New York City. So I moved from East Coast to West Coast. And on campus, I haven't declared officially yet, but I intend on majoring in cognitive science, which is this really cool major that looks at the brain from multiple perspectives through like philosophy and psychology and neuroscience. And I personally find it very intriguing. And on campus last year, I was involved in our student government, Associate Students of Pomona College. And this year, I'm going to be a mentor for one of our affinity groups, which is called Asian American Mentorship Program. And with that, I'll pass it off to Scripps.
Hi. Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Selena Teklai. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior at Scripps, but originally I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota right now. And I'm majoring in biology at Scripps, and activities that I'm a part of. I'm in the Eritrean and Ethiopian Student Association, also a part of Without a Box improv troupe, and then also I'm also in the Watuwe UC, which is sort of the Black Student Union at Scripps, and I'm really excited to be here and answer all your questions. Cool. Over to you. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Karina. I'm a rising senior at CMC, majoring in economics and psychology, originally from Anaheim, California, so not too far away. On campus, I work at the admissions office. I work on our college programming board, which plans on and off campus events, and I'm a first generation college mentor for our One Gen Club here on campus.
Our Harvey Mudd student is running a bit late, so Vivian, let's go to you, and hopefully they'll be able to join us.
Awesome. Hi everyone, my name is Vivian. I am from Piedmont, California in NorCal. I'm currently a neuroscience major, rising senior, focusing on behavioral neuroscience. I also, outside of the Office of Admission, which I've worked at since I was a first year, I also have been a research assistant for a cognitive neuroscience lab. I'm a TA for a biology lab course, and I'm also involved in some crafting and gardening based clubs that we have around here on campus. And I also use she, her pronouns.
Great. Savannah, are you here? Are you able to turn on your video?
Yeah, I am.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Savannah, are you able to introduce yourself? Let us know where you're coming from, your hometown, your major, and any activities that you participate with on campus.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Savannah. I'm a rising senior at Harvey Mudd College. I'm an engineering major. I'm from Pomona, California, which is where I currently am. It's a neighboring city of Claremont. And some things I'm involved with at the 5Cs include the 5C rugby team. I'm also working in the new makerspace that we have at Harvey Mudd's campus, as well as our machine shop. And I'm also one of the proctors for Harvey Mudd as well, in one of the dorms, which is essentially an RA. But yeah, those are the main things I'm involved with.
Great, thank you for joining us today. So our first question for our panelists is, why did you choose to attend your college? And with that, I'm going to leave it for our students to kind of continue the panel, but we'll go in founding order again, starting with Luci.
Thank you so much. So I chose to attend Pomona for a number of reasons. Pretty much how I came here was I started off my college search process by like looking specifically at smaller schools because I didn't really like the idea of like going to a large university where I didn't get to know everyone, or I was sitting in classes with like hundreds of students. I figured that wasn't really the best learning environment for me. So I was specifically looking at liberal arts colleges because at the time I was also very undecided. So I came across Pomona by kind of just like Googling it, and then I found it one day. So pretty much added it to my like college tour list. So I came, like I visited campus and I kind of just fell in love. I would say the biggest reason I chose Pomona was probably for the people. I know you probably hear everyone say that, but my sort of argument for that is that I think Pomona is a very collaborative, not competitive community. And I think that goes for probably all of the 5 Cs. It's a place where like people aren't talking necessarily about like, oh, like what grade did you get on your last exam, or like what's your GPA. Rather, students are always like understanding that we're here to support one another, and we each have different academic endeavors, and it doesn't matter like who's doing better in what class. And I think that's a very different environment than what I had in high school. So it's something I valued a lot, and probably the biggest reason. And I also chose Pomona because 2, weather is nice, and 3, they offered really great financial aid. So with that, I'll pass it off to Selena.
Yeah, cool. So at first, I wasn't really looking at women's colleges. I sort of just wanted to get out of state just because Minnesota is very cold, really harsh winters. And so I wanted sort of the opposite of just like really nice weather. And so I was looking at the West Coast basically for that like nice weather and environment. And then my older sister, who went to a historically women's college, started talking to me about her experiences and was telling me about how she felt really empowered and grew in confidence being in that environment. And so I started looking at women's colleges on the West Coast. And then I found Scripps, and I really liked the sort of smaller college feel and the liberal arts opportunities of me being sort of a STEM minded person. I liked STEM, but I really did want to explore like more humanities, and I didn't want to like let that go. And so I really liked that opportunity to just really explore all these different options and classes. And then I visited Scripps, and I just saw all the students like really connect well with each other and advocate not only for themselves but for others. And I felt like I could really like start a new life at Scripps and like really call it my home. Yeah, so Karina. Cool.
Yeah, so I didn't really know about CMC until the summer before my senior year of high school, but there was a program for underrepresented students. And so when I got to campus, everyone was super welcoming, willing to share their experience. And then I got to sit down in a classroom as well. Everyone was sharing their opinions, and just seeing the campus life was so meaningful just because everyone seemed to know each other. I came from a small school, thought that I wanted to go to a bigger school, but when I got to campus, I was like, no, I want to go back to like a smaller school just because of how meaningful your relationships can get in that setting. And like that's what I was seeing on CMC's campus, and the resources that also CMC has and they provide for their students were more on the pre-professional sides, like the internship opportunities, research opportunities, our Athenaeum on campus. They really stood out to me. And so similar to what other people have said, the community is definitely one of the big reasons, but also like the resources that CMC offered is why I ended up choosing the school. And I'll pass it to Savannah.
Yeah, so with me, I kind of knew I wanted to do engineering. And so a big thing for me was looking for engineering schools. And what really sold me for Harvey Mudd was when I came to the Admitted Students Weekend and just got to meet the students and interact with the students. as well as the professors and just how friendly and welcoming everyone was. And when I got to campus, that was still the same. Like, as everyone has said so far, community is a really big part of your experience at the Claremont Colleges, and Mudd is no different from that. So yeah.
Yeah. So for me personally, the reason why I ended up at Pitzer is I knew in high school that I wanted to study neuroscience. So I was paying a lot of attention at the neuroscience programs at all the schools I was touring. And they were all fantastic and were great for different reasons. But what I came to realize is that I personally wasn't interested in programs that were focusing on furthering neuroscience just for the sake of furthering neuroscience, that kind of research work and that work. Of course, that produces amazing knowledge, amazing work, and I can never discount that. But it wasn't going to be something I was going to be happy doing for the rest of my life. And what I realized as soon as I got to Pitzer was that their approach is pretty different. So for example, in my lab, we're having people play video games, which is super fun. And we're doing it so we can understand how people respond to reward differently, which is cool. And it's furthering neuroscience and how we understand the brain. But that's not really what we're doing. What we're actually doing is we are looking at reward pathways because they're the same ones that are affected by Parkinson's disease. So really what we're trying to do is use our skills and our knowledge to be able to then further those around us by understanding how we can use reward pathways to make early diagnostic techniques. And that's the attitude that's not just present in neuroscience at Pitzer, because not everyone's interested in neuroscience, but it's something that I've come to realize is going to be the case. It doesn't matter where it's academic, extracurricular, whatever you're doing, you have that kind of consciousness and awareness, which I think comes very much from our core values. So I think that's kind of those core values and that aspect of neuroscience specifically is what ultimately brought me to Pitzer. So yeah. Alrighty, folks, so since I am also moderating this panel, I'm gonna throw out one question into the chat, well, into the panel, actually, I should say. So yeah, first thing is gonna be still going in our founding order. What does a day in your life look like when you are on campus? So Luci, I'm gonna pass it back to you.
Oh, that's a good question. So currently, I have only been on campus for the summer because I have been working here, but I'll basically run through what that has been. It's pretty much like typically you would wake up around, maybe for me it would be like 7:30ish, and then I'd grab breakfast at Frank Dining Hall, which is one of the dining halls across the 5 colleges, and then I guess after that, typically over the summer, I would go to work, but during the school year, what a schedule might look like is you might wake up at a certain time, grab breakfast at one of the dining halls. We have 7 across all of the 5 Cs. And then you might, for example, head to class. After that, you might grab lunch at either like an eatery or Creek Fountain. Sometimes students meet up and do a little bit of studying in the Mudd Library, which is one of our shared resources on campus. And then after that, you might have another class, or you might head to maybe like a club or activity meeting, which happen all around. A lot of clubs here are 5C wide. So you might be meeting a lot of people from different colleges, from different spaces, and just getting to know the greater Claremont community in general. And then once again, it really is flexible depending on how you want to schedule things. Some students have extra jobs in the afternoon or the evenings. And sometimes, you might head to the village as well for either like a quick bite or to do a little bit of hanging out. And sometimes students even do internships in the LA throughout the week as well. So with that, I can pass it to anyone else who wants to chime in next. Well, since we're going in founding order, I'll pass it to Selena.
So my day usually starts off, waking up in my dorm and then going over to the Motley Coffee House for maybe just like a quick cup of coffee, and then maybe like a bagel, just to start off my day, just because I don't really eat that much breakfast. So I'm not very hungry for breakfast, and so then I usually just grab something small from the coffee house. And then I'll usually go over to my classes, which, because I'm a biology major, most of my classes will be in the Keck Science Department, which is a shared science department between CMC, Pitzer, and Scripps. And so it's usually going to be either maybe it'll sometimes be in the Pitzer buildings or like the CMC buildings, or in the Keck Science building that's in between all 3 colleges. And so I'll usually spend a lot of my time over there. I'll usually have one or 2 humanities classes as well. So then I'll explore, like I'll go usually maybe to Pomona or Scripps for some of my humanities classes. I took most of my Spanish classes at Pitzer, and so that was really cool to go over there and like explore more of like Pitzer's language classes. And then usually at the end of the day, I would usually study at Honnold Library, like Luci mentioned, just because it's super huge, a lot of studying spaces. And then afterwards, I might go over to Harvey Mudd to go to Jay's place. And that's sort of like me and my friends' like favorite snack place, like late night snack place, just because it's super awesome. And I'm a night owl, and so the food is really nice to eat like late at night. And so that's one of my favorite things. If anybody wants to go, or if you want to go to the next, I don't know. Yeah, if anybody else.
I think we can probably hop on to another question now. Thank you, Selena. Alrighty, so actually this is a one for you, Luci, having come from the East Coast. Could you tell me, well, Hannah is asking a little bit about what that East Coast to West Coast transition is like.
Yeah, of course. So coming from the East Coast, I think it's definitely a very different environment. I grew up in New York City, so I'm definitely more used to like a more urban scene. I lived there my entire life, and then coming here to California, it's like I'm definitely more of a little suburb college town vibe here. I think the biggest positive change is the weather, because I don't like the cold at all. Like it gets very gloomy in the winter. Selena, I think you know as well, it's probably similar in Minneapolis.
Yes,
so
definitely.
yeah, so it's definitely like coming here to sunny Southern California is something that has really like brightened like the winter season, I guess. And I think in terms of like the distance, it really depends on how every person deals with it differently. For me, I feel comfortable like traveling and going far places, so I don't really get homesick. But even if I do, like there are a lot of students at Pomona in general who come from outside of California. So 30% of students are from within California, 20% are international, but the rest are from all over the US. So I'm not alone in coming from like a far place. And we also have events like family weekend where sometimes your family can fly out. The school will host a bunch of like cool activities to do for all of you together, and it's something that that keeps you connected with your parents and with your family back home.
Great, thank you, Luci. Okay, the next question we have is the pros and cons about the size across the 5 Cs. Anybody want to start off with that?
I can start off with the pros. Even within CMC, like it's around 1,300 students, and it's about the same for all the other schools, like around that 1,300 range. And if CMC like ever feels too small, then you can always expand to the greater 5C community, which is like around 6,000 students. And just being able to like have clubs and organizations with other students from the other schools, or taking classes at the other schools, or eating at one of their dining halls is so cool. Getting to meet some of the students from the other campuses as well. And I think, again, being able to take part in activities at the other, like on weekends as well. One time like Pitzer was having a concert, and so I just like went over to hear some live music playing, and it's so amazing to, again, just being able to walk to the other street and you're at another campus, right? So having that close proximity with all the schools is definitely a plus.
Awesome. Anybody else have anything to add to that? Okay, then we can talk about, alrighty. Ooh, this is a good one. Okay, what has been the most meaningful relationship that you've had on campus? I can start us off. So for me, it has honestly been a lot of my professors, because coming to college, I feel like I kind of had the perception of like, very intimidating, like they're at the top of their field, like that's what's always publicized, like that kind of energy. But what I came to realize is that's genuinely not the case. I remember I was in a chemistry class my first year, and I was having a hard time with some particular piece of material. And my professor was helping me work through it. And she was like, you know what, I really wasn't good at this stuff in college. I was actually kind of bad at all of chemistry when I was in undergrad. And I just looked at her like absolutely shocked, because I've never had a teacher tell me before that they used to be bad at something. But that was like the most comforting thing to like hear that, oh, well, I used to be horrible at this, but now I'm like a top person in my field in teaching this at an amazing institution. And like, that's, you know, something that's very unique to the colleges, that they will admit when they're wrong. They will admit when they had to grow from, you know, maybe not being so great at things. And so that kind of relationship and understanding I can get to their place and they want to help me get there has made probably professors be the most meaningful relationship for me. Yeah. Anyone else want to add on?
I think I can add on with a lot of my meaningful relationships were with like my RAs, or it's resident coordinators at Scripps, and then also community coordinators at Scripps. So a lot of, I feel like before going to college, I was like, oh, I'm going to be intimidated or really policed by my like RAs. And so then I was a little bit worried about making those connections. But they have given me like so much good advice, especially RA's connection, RA and CC connections with first years. They really want you to succeed in Scripps and feel connected within the community. And so especially over these past few years, Scripps has really been amplifying its like dorm culture. And so they've just been really amplifying like different hallway themes and different events that dorms have. And so it's been really nice to just connect with your dorm a little bit more, especially since like comparing it to like my high school friends where they went to like Minnesota or Wisconsin for college, it was colder, so then they spent a lot more time in their dorms, so then they were closer to with other people in their dorms. So we basically had a lot more outdoor activities for Scripps dorms because we were able to like to enjoy the sunny weather and everything. That's something that I really enjoyed and felt a really meaningful connection with those RAs and CCs.
I would like to add on a bit to that. I think at Mudd, something that I was kind of surprised by when I got to campus is how involved upperclassmen want to be in your life. Like, they are so welcoming and so excited that you're there. A lot of my good friends that I've made over the years are 2-3 years older than me, just because by virtue of just various activities, and them just also being so welcoming and introducing like me and my friends to various things on campus. That it's a pretty cool experience to have upperclassmen like want to be actively involved in the things that you do on campus, which is really, really nice.
Awesome, thanks y'all. Okay, next question is from Sylvia, which is, do you visit downtown LA often, or do you mainly stay on or around campus? I guess it's for those of us who've been to campus, sadness. But alrighty, yeah. Anyone LA adventures they like to go on?
I can start it off. So I mentioned before, I'm on the college programming board, and so my job my first year was actually to plan the off-campus events, and it will be again this upcoming year, which I'm really excited about. So I take students 5 times per semester, as well as my other friend. She was in charge of doing 5 events, so in total students had an opportunity of 10 times to go into LA. So I planned like whale watching event, America's Got Talent taping. My friend did a Disneyland trip, a Dodgers game, basketball game. So just because of that position, I did find myself in LA more often, and I actually taught students how to use the Metrolink, which is a 15-20 minute walk from campus that will take you straight into LA, and there's student discounts on weekends as well. So I did find myself like a little bit in LA a little bit more often than some of my other friends, but that was just because of my position. But we do teach students like how to use the Metrolink, things like that. So if you did want to go, it is pretty easy to take the Metrolink. But again, I think maybe students don't go as often as people think they would, just because there's again so many things going on campus on weekends with all the 5 C's together too. But yeah, that's sort of like the rundown of my time at LA.
Alrighty, well, another question for the homebodies like me now. So Anna's wondering what the town of Claremont is like. Does it feel small, or do students enjoy it? Well, for me personally, I, again, am a homebody. So I personally really like kind of sticking around the Claremont area. Also just because I grew up here. So I've done, been in LA a ton. So Claremont was very new to me. There's a lot of amazing shops. They really have a lot of great food festivals. They have a pie festival every year. There's a chocolate festival, which has like a little scavenger hunt component where you get to like go into different stores and they'll give you different chocolates, which is very fun. They have a farmer's market every weekend. There's a ton of music festivals, movie theater, all that kind of stuff. Amazing thrift stores, nurseries like for gardening, which I spend a lot of time in, and it's all an amazing environment. I think also because Claremont is not just an exclusive college town. There are a lot of long-term residents who aren't even working at the college and things like that. So it's overall just kind of a much more community-based kind of setting, I would say, than you would see at most college towns where it's just kind of just tailored for your college students. So you get to kind of expand, have some more cool things, some more fun events, new things going on at all times. They're constantly coming up with new stuff. So I would say it's definitely doesn't feel too small for me. And that's me growing up right next to San Francisco. But it's, nice little size to be able to explore. And I'm still finding new things 4 years later. So yeah, anybody else want to add on to the village?
I can say, as someone who's grown up in Claremont, been here for a while, yeah, very similar, very small college town vibe. There's a lot of wilderness trails and hiking that you can do as well, which I've enjoyed all throughout of my years. But yeah, Claremont's definitely kind of has that small town feel for sure. But if you are looking to get kind of away to some of the bigger cities like LA, it is really just a train ride away. It's pretty easy to get there, to the beach and various things like that, if you did want to kind of explore further away.
Right. Awesome. Okay, well, I guess now kind of going into a bit of our history, the popular traditions that people have at each of their schools. Anyone want to start us off?
Yeah. One of my favorite traditions at Scripps is the signing of the graffiti wall, which is we have there's like a wall between two of our oldest dorms at Scripps, and there's just all this different artwork and graffiti on it of all the past years of Scripps, all the graduating years of Scripps, and so it dates back all the way to like 1931. And so each class at their graduation basically has a painting or a mural of something signifying that year. And then they all like sign the mural to just mark their place at Scripps and mark what was happening at the time. And so that was something. In my first year, I lived in one of the older buildings, and I passed that every week or like every day, basically, when going to class. And so it was just awesome to just like look at that history every day, like walking to my classes, and then like knowing that I'm like making my impact at Scripps as well, and making my mark. I'm going to make my mark like physically, but then also like right now, I'm making my mark as like a student. So that was something that I really enjoyed at Scripps, or like really enjoyed that like I get to be a part of at Scripps.
I can go next. So at Pomona, we have a tradition, which is basically just the number 47. So how that came to be is like a few, or not like a few, like 50 or so years ago, basically a professor and a group of seniors wrote this like joke thesis about how 47 is the most commonly occurring number in nature. And I don't really know if that's true because I'm not a math major, but basically Pomona really liked it, even though it was meant to be a joke. So they kind of adopted 47 as like our school's number. So we have events like we celebrate 4-7 Day, which is April 7th. And then on that day, they like cancel like a lot of classes. They'll have like these big food trucks set up on the quad. They'll bring like 2 giant zip lines, like trampolines, and lots of like snow cones, and just spend like a day celebrating the number and not going to class. And then we also have this really cool thing called like 47 things to do at Pomona before you graduate. That's basically just a series of trips you can take in Southern California, and it's subsidized by the school, so they cover most of the costs. And the most popular trip every year is called Ski Beach Day, where they take you skiing on Mount Baldy in the morning, and in the afternoon you go like surfing on the beach. So that's really exciting, and something that like utilizes our unique like location between like the two like the mountains and the beach. So that's something really cool that everyone tries to do at least once.
At CMC, we have something called ponding. So at midnight on your birthday, your friends will take you to like these fountains that we have at the center of campus, and they'll grab you by like your legs and your shoulders, swing you as they sing happy birthday, and then they toss you in. So that's definitely one of my favorite traditions.
Similarly, at Mudd, we have a thing called showering, where on your birthday you will be pushed into the shower, clothes on, and everyone sings happy birthday as you're as you're getting showered. So yeah, that's a lot of fun.
We don't have any water themed traditions, but we do have this music festival that's called Cahutek. It's our longest standing tradition here by far. It's been going on since the 1970s. And it's a 2-day long music festival that we have every year on the mounds, which is basically akin to a quad on other campuses. And it's absolutely fantastic. Basically the entirety of the 5 Cs shows up, which is kind of terrifying, but really fun. And it's the only festival I've gone to where I got to immediately go to my bed and have snacks afterward if I wanted to. So definitely nice to have that on campus. All right, next question that we got going up is, oh, this is a fun one. All right, how has your experience at the 5 Cs differed from what you had originally anticipated? Anybody want to lead us on? Alternatively, I'll keep talking. Cool. Alrighty. So for me, I suppose it was that I went to a very competitive high school where the only thing that mattered was, you know, beating the person in front of you for most people. Then hearing about Pitzer and how it's so much more of a collaborative academic environment, I was kind of like, huh, yeah, sure, right, okay. Like I didn't think that that could exist, but it really surprised me how much that actually is the case and how little people care about how you're doing unless you're like not doing well emotionally or mentally. Like that's what is important. It's not important like your academic success and doing well there. That's great and that's fantastic, but that doesn't mean that you're okay as a person. And that's always the focus. It's never going to be, oh, that person is doing better than me, I have to catch up. It's always, oh, that person's doing better than me, well, I can ask them for help in that class then. And then in turn, I'll help them in the future. And even though it was something I'd been told in advance, and now I'm like, I don't get why people don't get this. I didn't expect it. And it really is a fantastic reality that I've found myself in. Anybody else with their surprises?
Yeah, personally, I didn't expect to make friends as easily as I did. Like it was so quick and so immediate, just the bonding through various classes, to the point where I think after the first week, I could sit down at any table and say, hey, how's it going? And just start a conversation with someone. Like everyone was so friendly and welcoming. And I just did not have that expectation coming into Mudd that that would be the case for sure.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with both Savannah and Vivian's point. Like the amount of collaboration within the classroom is actually like there's so much collaboration. I've found like a study group in every single class that I've had, but also like the relationships that I've been able to build with like the admission officers, the deans, my professors. I mean, our President Chodosh will also invite students like to his house to have dinner. So I've gone over like 2 times just because of like clubs and organizations, but like he loves to invite like the freshman class over. And so being able to have that sort of like relationship with your peers, but also with professors is really cool.
Awesome. Alrighty, well, thanks everybody. Okay, so the next question is, how do you engage with the other Claremont colleges other than right now?
Yeah, so as I was mentioning, as I mentioned, I'm in sort of this, I take a lot of classes at the Keck Science Department. And so that's shared between CMC and Pitzer. And so I spend a lot of time with like CMC and Pitzer students in my classes, and then sometime on the campus with those classes. And then also, I think I spend a lot of time with Pomona and Harvey Mudd students in my clubs and 5C clubs and encounters and stuff. And so that's where I've heard people say like Scripps is as 5C, or like each college is as 5C as you want to make it. And I really wanted to make it like really broad, and I wanted to explore each of the different colleges. And so I think that was like where I was able to mingle with like a lot of different 5C students, both in my classes and then like in 5C clubs and in organizations. Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to Selena's point a lot. I personally, and I mentioned earlier, part of the rugby team, but I was also part of the CMS soccer team. So I met a lot of my off-campus friends through like doing sports and various things like that. And I take tons of classes, political science classes at Pomona as well. So I've also gotten to like get to know their professors down there, as well as like students of the various campuses. So yeah, it's really easy to just take a class or join a club and kind of get that 5C experience. Like Selena said, it is as 5C as you make it kind of thing.
Yeah, and going off of what was already said, like a lot of departments and sort of organizations here being 5C wide means that you get to interact with more students, just not just like on your home campus. So for example, like I'm really interested in maybe like doing Asian American studies courses, and that department is 5C wide. It's intercollegiate, which means that if you're taking classes there, you're not just going to be at Pomona, you're going to be like at Pitzer, for example, or also at Scripps and Harvey Mudd, and you're going to be like going across and meeting everyone from across the school. So a lot of resource centers as well are 5C wide. So you'll be able to contact a lot of like professors or mentors or students who don't just come from within your home campus.
All right, awesome. Thanks, y'all. Okay, next question is, can you talk about experiential learning, i.e. research, internships, and study abroad? Well, I can kick it off a little bit with research, as I already was talking about my lab a little bit earlier. But the unique thing about the Claremont Colleges is, even though we are solely undergraduate institutions, we have research going on at all times. That's not typically going to be the case for solely undergraduate schools. Usually, if you only have undergrads, you're focused on teaching, and that's kind of the attitude. But again, that's never going to be the case here. We have research going on at all times, and I can testify that it's super accessible. I got my job in a lab because I emailed the professor, the PI of the lab, primary investigator, and I was like, hey, I think your research sounds really cool. Can you help me understand it a little bit better? Because it was using techniques I hadn't used before in cephalography. And he was like, yeah, sure, come on in. So I went to his office, we chatted for like an hour, and then he was like, can I hire you? Like, do you want to work for me? Just on the spot like that, because he was like, I can understand that you are someone who's interested in this material. You want to learn. You're very, excited about research. Come work for me. And that's honestly how accessible and easy it is. And I also want to say research is never going to be exclusive to STEM. So I'm a research assistant putting EEG caps on people's heads. But someone else in my office is a research assistant in a very different capacity, because she's helping media studies professor write a book right now. So she's finding sources, contacting the publisher. It's very different work, but we still get those skills and techniques in our respective fields and amazing experience out of it. But yeah, anyone else have things about internships, research, study abroad also?
I can hop on the research as well. At Mudd, you are required to do research at least 1 year during your senior year, but you can start research much earlier than that. I know a lot of friends who were able to start like during their first semester doing research with a professor, and it is as simple as reaching out and saying, hey, I heard what you're researching about, can I join? More often than not, professors are like, yeah, or come by and let's talk some more kind of thing. Professors are really excited about the work that they do at the colleges. And even if the research that you're interested in isn't at your own college, that's perfectly fine. I have a friend who is a CS major who's doing linguistics research down at Pomona because she just is really into linguistics. So there's a lot of opportunities both within STEM and outside of STEM to do research and get involved with like a professor's work if you really find that exciting.
I was gonna say, I feel like there's a lot of like research skills also implemented in a lot of classes at Scripps and at the 5Cs, where I've learned a lot of just like research skills about like writing proposals and grant proposals and like different lab techniques, where the professors will like really say like, oh, this is something that I use every day. So I think you guys should like really like learn a lot about this and like different examples of research that is really implementable and like beneficial for like everybody's future, that like everybody can use, like Vivian was saying, that like not only STEM students but all of the humanities students and like creative arts students can use in their future. So yeah.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about internships and like study abroad at CMC. I studied abroad the second semester of my sophomore year in Prague in the Czech Republic. But in addition to like international options, there's also like 2 domestic options that CMC offers. There's like a program at Silicon Valley and one at Washington, DC, where you do like a full-time internship, you're conducting your own independent research project, you're taking 2 seminar courses. So there's like both domestic and international options of like going off campus at CMC. And like similar situation at the other 4 Cs as well. And then for internships, CMC has this program called the Sponsored Internship and Experiences Program, where if you find an internship during any of your summers and it is not paid for or it is underpaid, they can help you fund you for it for X amount of money. So after my freshman year, I found an internship in Australia to do marketing for 2 months, and they fully funded it all, left, came back, same amount of money in my bank account essentially. So the amount of support that goes to those like internships is really amazing. And again, just like the support in finding them and knowing like what destination you want to go abroad is also, we have like advisors for each of them that can help you like choose where you want to go.
Yeah, and then just to talk a little bit about Pomona, we have a lot of similar programs to what the other Claremont colleges offer as well. We also have a program that covers sort of a budget for you if you get an unpaid or low paid internship. That's called PSIP, Pomona College Internship Program. And then we also fund like undergraduate research on campus. So every summer there are students who are able to like conduct research, like live on campus, like use the facilities here, or maybe conduct research in like a different city. Basically, you can apply for funding from the school and do your own independent project. You'll get the funding and then work with the professor, work with other students, and then present everything you've done in a big symposium at the beginning of the fall semester. So there's a lot of opportunities to pursue like your own interests or work closely, like, as the other students have said, with professors who you have formed relationships with.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Okay. So next question is a little bit more about classes. So what has your cross-registration experience been? Is it difficult to take classes at the other 5 Cs? And do students have priority at their own college over students coming from a different 5C college? In terms of being able to take classes at the other 5 Cs, I've never had a problem getting into a class at the other colleges if it was like my top pick. Never had an issue with that. We have something here that's called a permission to enter request, which is very long, but basically it's called a perm request for short. Whenever a class is filled up, or anything like that, you can submit a perm request, which is like, hey, professor, I would really like to take this class for XYZ reasons. Will you please let me in if you get an opening, and things like that. So I also, Pitzer students, we're kind of the like, even though we're the youngest of the college, we kind of have the energy of like the middle sibling who just kind of goes with the flow and it's like, yeah, we're fine. We'll figure it out. We got it, but it's chill. And with that, I think we're able to work really well at all of the colleges, which I think also helps out a lot in that we're kind of like the one that's flowing around and moving. And that I think also really resonates with professors, which means if you're like, hey, I want to take this class, it's either not offered at Pitzer or I just really want to take it here. They understand, even if it's like already happens to be mostly students from one of the colleges, they're not going to be like, oh, well, I'm actually now going to make it that. No, they're like, it's chill. You're good. We know you can go with the flow. Even if you're surrounded by students from the other schools, you will be just A-okay. Yeah, anyone else have thoughts on that?
Yeah, so most of my classes, most of my classes I've been taking at Keck. So those, I don't really know whether to classify those as like off campus or on campus just because of like the shared nature. But then there was also a intro to psychology class that I took at CMC that was initially CMC students could join it, but then other 4C college students had to perm request to be in it. And I was able to be in it with little to no like struggle, like just writing the perm and like emailing the teacher and expressing my interest in taking the class. And I felt like the only like weirdness was just like the first maybe day of school or day of class of just being like, whoa, there's a lot of CMC students here, or like just like the different vibes of like being like one or like a few of like the only like Scripps students there. And so that was just like interesting. But then like after a while, it was just like a regular class, and we were able to, it's very much like we're still like the 5C community. And so it's able to like, we're able to like connect with each other through that and be in class, and it's just a regular class at that point. Yeah, so yeah.
Awesome, thank you, Selena. All right, so we are getting close to 5, so I'm gonna just do kind of a couple more questions here. One that we have is kind of a fast question, and I can answer it relatively quickly. Is it necessary for students to have a car? How accessible is public transportation? Well, I can tell you it's not necessary because I don't have a driver's license. So it's really easy to be able to get around. We have a ton of different things for like, and we have something that's called the GBP, which is the Green Bike Program, helps students get bike accessibility. The other schools have their own equivalents of that, so you still have access to that. Skateboards, scooters, bikes, bus system in downtown Claremont, train station, the Metrolink is a 20-minute walk away, which takes you straight to downtown LA in approximately an hour. And we have bus systems once you get to LA. Everything is very centrally located. We have zip cars, there's Uber and Lyft, easily accessible. A lot of the schools have their own vans that student groups can rent out to go on day trips and things like that. So all in all, again, I can't even drive, and I still do great. I'm still able to get everywhere that I need to go, get everything I need, and do everything that I need to do. So I don't know if anyone wants to add, but I feel like that's the most testament that you don't need a car. So alrighty, I'm gonna move to the next question of what events are there to welcome new students? How do you learn about clubs and activities and things like that when you're first year just getting started?
I can start this one. So at CMC, we have our freshman year orientation trip where the whole freshman class gets divided up into groups, and you get a first year guide. We call them FIGs for short, and they take you on a trip, whether that's camping or like exploring LA. And then that group, basically, you stay really close to them during your 4 years. We call each other Womies, and so it's really cool to like meet up with your Womies. And then, wait, there was like a second part to this question. Oh, how do you learn about clubs? So on campus, we have our club fair that happens. So there's like 50 plus clubs and organizations that CMC has, and they basically set up booths. But then there's also something called Turf Dinner, which happens with like all 5C colleges together. And then you basically get to sign up for clubs and organizations that are 5C wide. And again, like similar situation, they all they all put their booths up. They usually have like food trucks and things like that. So it's a lot of fun to be a part of like your school's clubs and organizations, but also like 5C clubs and organizations. So that's like a little bit of 5C/CMC and how they do it.
Yeah, I just want to second like Turf Dinner and how like fun it is. Basically, you as a first year, I signed up for just so many clubs, which I sort of barely got back to some of them. But one I connected with was Comic Book Club. I just saw it and I hadn't read that many comic books before, but I was really interested in like getting into them. And so I signed up with them, and then I ended up going to LA Comic-Con a few like weeks later with them, which was really fun and just like awesome to like see that connection from like Turf Dinner to like going on a trip with them to LA and going to my first convention. So yeah, I feel like that Turf Dinner is like an awesome resource and just like so huge. It's such a giant, like so many booths, so many tables. You're gonna like connect with one of them.
Absolutely. Okay, we have kind of a related question, talking about what kind of community service opportunities are available. A lot of the clubs, especially I know from experience at Pitzer, are very much involved in this area. One of our most popular is a group that's called A Cleaner Tomorrow. So they focus on social justice and environmental justice education in elementary school kids. So they go to elementary schools, teaching them about either like why it's important to keep the watersheds clean, or how you can grow like a small garden at your school, or even like how to do, elementary school versions of social justice to kind of get them started. Things like, all right, here's how we can write a letter to your principal to ask for recycling bins in the library and things like that. So that's like just one example of many. We also have something at Pitzer that's called the Community Engagement Center. They help find volunteer opportunities within the local community, and they also help create a ton of our classes. So for example, I took a class that was based on ecology work. So part of our class is a typical 5C discussion-based class, but then also a large chunk of the time of that class was actually spent in a local botanical garden, helping the staff there as they work primarily with native plants. And so that was kind of our focus there. I also got to help run a little Halloween event, which was really cute and fun. So things like that. It's very much built into the club system, into independent work through the CEC, into internships, classes. It's in every aspect of life here at Pitzer. So it's super important for Pitzer students as part of community, as student engagement, to be engaged within our community setting. Yeah, anyone else have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about Pomona's opportunities. So we have a center here called the Draper Center, which basically has a lot of volunteering opportunities and like ways to get involved with like local Claremont organizations. So we have sort of this, for example, one of the many opportunities we have is this sort of internship with the Pomona Valley Medical Center, where you can basically go there, you can help them like the patients, and you can actually do like translating work for them, which is really cool. We have this event that a lot of Pomona students help out like for PAYS, which is for like underrepresented students in the Pomona area. It's basically like a summer program, and Pomona students serve as like either like writing teachers or like math teachers, and it's really cool. And they have like a very nice graduation hosted on Pomona's campus. And we also have this cool thing called Alterna Break, where during spring break, you're able to go on this like really cool community engagement or community service trip with a group of students rather than going home. And you'll have like, you'll be working with an organization somewhere in California. And it's just a great way to get involved with, your the greater like community around you.
Yeah, similar at CMC, we have a club, I believe it's called College Knowledge, where you go and tutor different high school students around the area. You can work at the children's school, which basically you work with like 2 to 5 year olds, just helping the teacher, like assisting with things. And then we also have a volunteer club on campus and another club called Source, where you can like consult nonprofits and work with them. And again, similar situation, like we have research institutes on campus, and a lot of them help like the local community as well. So like very similar situation at all the colleges, just like different groups that go out.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. All right, so we are getting close to the end of our time here. So we're going to have one last kind of question for all of us to go through, which is from the chat. What did you wish you had known going into the freshman or first year, rather, of college? What do you wish you had asked on a campus tour when you were in my place? Yeah. Anyone want to start us off? Just keep.
I think not being really specific to Scripps, but in a wider sort of general sense that can be applied to many colleges. I wish I would have known that it's like okay and very, very encouraged to ask for help and go to like office hours and connect with your professors in a way that you're a student, you're learning, you don't know this stuff. And so it's fine if you don't have the answers or if you are struggling, because it's a new environment, it's a new place. And you're socially stressed, and then also like academically stressed. And so I think just in general, just like being okay with not knowing and like and taking up that space in asking for help. And so I think that's like what I've grown to like really accept about like myself, and what has really helped me through Scripps, or like what I struggled with first year and now has helped me through Scripps to know that. Mm-hmm.
One other thing I think would be like how easy it is to switch a major, just because I know at other schools like you have to apply into a school, whereas like at CMC and like the Claremont Consortium, I have friends who have switched up to 5-6 times their major, right? And so it's so easy to change your major if you want to, and it just gives you that space and the flexibility to explore so many different interests. And that just like ties back to the liberal arts education, having so many things that you might want to explore and like are passionate about, and that may not be so simple at other institutions. So just keeping in mind that like if you are set in stone with what you want to major, like that's amazing, but if you don't, like that's totally okay. You can come in and declare it. It will not impact you in any sort of way. Instead, like it gives you that time to explore what you want to do, and like that definitely is something possible in the Claremont Consortium.
Alrighty, I guess for me, the thing that I wish I had known going into first year is that it's okay to take a break, and you need to take a break because honestly, I think there's a lot of mindset that I had growing up of you kind of just have to go, 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 and that's the only way that you'll get anywhere. But that's really not the case, that you need to take those breaks, you need to relax, even when you're in high school still and in the application process, because got to take that little breather. Otherwise, you know, sadly, you're going to burn out at some point. So rather than do that, you'll get there. You will, but take that moment, take what you need, and you'll be a-okay. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Does anyone have, Savannah, go ahead.
I was going to say one thing that I kind of wish I knew more in my first year was like, you don't have to major in something to be involved with it. I think like I'm an engineering major, but I've done biology research. I've done poli-sci research. Like it's been a lot of fun to just get to do something, even though it's not something I'm like particularly focused in studying. And also to everyone else's point, like, yeah, asking for help and also taking breaks is something I wish I had in my mindset when I came in during my first year, because it was definitely go, go, go. And kind of looking back on it, like taking more breaks and really like pacing yourself, because these are 4 years of like really you're going to grow a lot and learn a lot about yourself. So definitely take your time, ask for help when you need it, and yeah, just enjoy the time that you have.
I guess I'll add my input. So one thing I wish I'd known was just how I guess different like time management is in college. I think in high school I was used to taking like maybe classes like 4 times or 5 times a week, and then in college like just the classes I took meant only like twice a week. So you know, I would be seeing my classes, my professors less often, but in terms of work, a lot of it was mostly asynchronous. Like it's more just about like making sure that you don't procrastinate too much, which I'm still working on, and just like making sure that I like, you know, if I have an essay due this week, that I'm like breaking down the work into manageable chunks so that I'm not pulling all nighter the night before. And it's just more like you have so much free time that you need to like learn how to plan it out and make sure that you can, you know, get your work done in time. So that's something that I was starting to learn, and I'm still learning, like going into my second year at Pomona.
Thank you, Luci, and thank you to all of our students for taking the time out of your day today to come and speak with our prospective students on what the Claremont Colleges is all about, and what student life is like at the Claremont Colleges. I know we weren't able to get to all the questions. If you have any additional questions, or if your question was unanswered, you can always reach out to each of the Claremont Colleges admission office, and we'll be able to connect you with a student or one of the student panelists here as well. If you joined our session late and want to watch a recording of this webinar, or if you want to watch the general overview of the Claremont Colleges and learn more specifically about what the Claremont Colleges are all about, what does our admission process look like, you can search Claremont Colleges Admission on YouTube and you'll be able to find our channel with all of our past recordings. Thank you so much for joining us today and have a good rest of your evening. Bye, everyone.